We are in the heart of Dynasty rookie season, and there's one move you can make in your rookie drafts that will potentially win you your league. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because this move, which you are very familiar with, very simple, very easy, I'm not going to tell them, has the potential to take your team to the next level in a lot of ways. And I'm going to start with this. A lot of people ask me, I have the 101, I have the 102. What should I be doing with these picks? And I think it's a great question. Even if you have, though, the 103, 104, 105, this is going to apply to you as well. And I think the answer to the question and the answer to what will potentially win you your Dynasty League is the down tier. And we talk a lot about the down tier, but the down tier this year is probably the most important strategy that you can implement going into your rookie drafts for a lot of reasons. First of all, let's talk about value. We talk about value a lot, but the 101 and the 102, when you're thinking about their value ceiling, when you're thinking about where these two players, namely Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., where they're being priced at, okay? So we talk about the players themselves. We love the players. Love Caleb Williams. Very, very good quarterback prospect. We are all in on Caleb Williams. All in on Marvin Harrison Jr. This class is unique because it is insanely deep. And I'm talking like you've got three guys at wide receiver, and I honestly, my personal opinion of Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. is pick your favorite. Yep. I'm not even kidding with that. Like, you think, okay, there's a big tier gap between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, or maybe between there. It's pick your favorite.
Let's put it this way: if I can get Rome Odunze plus a significant package, or just Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up, I'd rather take Rome.
But that's what's happening, because what we don't do as a Dynasty community well is we don't adjust for the value of picks enough relative to the class that we're actually drafting. So, for example, Dynasty trade calculators have not done a good job adjusting for like the 107 through 109. In a normal year, yes, those are pretty risky picks. You get to that point and the hit rate is not as good. This class is so deep that you're probably going to get a first-round wide receiver or a first-round quarterback there in that range. Most likely, if everything goes somewhat according to plan. There's still a margin of error to where even if things go wrong, you're still getting a first-round talent at the 107 almost no matter what.
Right.
Maybe a top 10 talent at the 107. Like, it's ridiculous. And so trade calculators in the Dynasty communities, we don't do a good job of adjusting our value of picks based on what the actual draft class is showing us. And this draft class is showing us that there's some crazy depth here. Speaking of rookie drafts, look, the best way to win your rookie draft, honestly, is to have one-on-one advice, and we are giving one-on-one advice through people's rookie drafts, helping them process their team build, helping them process all the options, the value on the board. Literally one-on-one consulting during your rookie draft. If you want that, and if you want a team blueprint, which we'll guarantee to get you before the draft next week, if you want our rookie draft guide, if you want our Discord, if you want the trade calculator, if you want all of it, flockfantasy.com/domain, link is in the description. Use code domain and choose Mother Flocker, and you'll get one-on-one access to Nathan and I to be in chatting with you during your rookie draft to make sure that we are killing this year's rookie drafts and winning money, and also making all kinds of down tiers. But back to down tiering. For people with the 101, 102, I'll start here. I'm telling them, like, I'm not making any picks. I'm not picking 101 or 102 at all this year. Like, literally, I will not do it. If I can move back to the 103 and at best I can get like an 8th, 9th round startup pick equivalent on top, I'm taking it. Just because it's that much extra value. And when you're looking at the hit rates for wide receivers, I mean, the wide receivers, again, they are even. But even the quarterbacks, like taking Caleb Williams over Drake May, if Drake May gets top 5 draft capital. Taking Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels, if Jaden Daniels Jaden Daniels, if he gets top 5 draft capital, who's to say he's not in the same tier as Caleb Williams because of his rushing upside? So you're down tiering, and every time you move off the 101 or the 102 and move into that 103 and 105 range, you're getting a player that has equal value insulation, that is probably going to be in the same tier of the NFL draft capital, and also potentially, and again, we don't know until the draft actually sorts itself out, but there's just as much risk involved with any of those guys. And you're getting some things on top for them. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going to win you your league, guys.
Yeah, and this is a theme that we've been talking about quite often this offseason, is the value or the importance of spreading out value. Because let's be honest, 90% of the people in Dynasty Fantasy Football that currently hold the 101 or the 102 are in a significant rebuild. Okay, what does rebuild mean? That means you're pretty value deficient. Your team is. You're working on accumulating value, acquiring assets that have the ceiling or the upside to increase in value higher than where you invested in them at. So when you're looking at the 101 and the 102 specifically, value equivalent players going at the tail end of the first round in Dynasty startups, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Herbert, Bijan Robinson, Anthony Richardson, and Jordan Love.
That's nuts, guys.
That is, well, and that's, this kind of brings me to this idea of like, what's your strategy as a rebuild? Is it to pay the price for one of the most valuable assets in Dynasty who almost for a fact is not going to increase in value going into his second year because he's already at his value ceiling? That's not how you increase value on your team. You're not any closer to being a contender if you just hold and pick at the 101. You're not.
You're not. And even if you're a contender with those picks, congratulations. You made a great move to get some value insulated high in draft capital in this draft. But if you're contending, like, what are you even doing with that pick? I mean, again, we talk about where they're priced. You're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams specifically. They're going to be priced so high in Dynasty that the odds of them increasing in value are like legitimately maybe 20% or less.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Guys,
like, Caleb Williams, to maintain his value, would have to perform at the level of like what a down Justin Herbert year would be. Like, guys, that would be a great rookie season. Marvin Harrison Jr., do you think he's doing what Puka Nacua did last year? I doubt it. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. But, I mean, even look at the guys going around him. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going in the same spot where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going in startups. Amon-Ra St. Brown averaged like 19 points a game last year.
Neighbors and Odunze have just as high a chance of producing at a Puka Nacua level as Marvin Harrison Jr. does in their rookie season, and you take the cheaper option at that point. If their production ceiling is the same, because you know which one's going to increase in value more.
And we talked about...
this isn't even anything against Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. We really, really like them both as prospects. This is not about Caleb Williams painting his nails.
If it were reversed, we'd down tier to these guys.
Exactly. And that's kind of the point. This is, look, if you're a rebuild and you own Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert, like we already said, guess what we're telling you to do with those guys? Down tier from them. You need
if
value.
You're a rebuild, down tiering is your friend anyways.
Yes.
But in this case, I don't care what kind of team you have. The 101 and the 102, you're letting your league mates pick those this year.
Yep.
Because not only we talked about the ceiling of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams, you're down tiering to a player that has potential to increase in value. And you want to talk about like rookie picks that hit hitting is relative to their dynasty price, in my opinion. When you have a dynasty pick, so for example, like I think Michael Wilson last year is a good example of this. Michael Wilson's technically a hit because of how much he increased in value from where you got him. Sam Laporta, obviously a hit by any definition, but especially a hit because you were getting him late second. Josh Downs, with how much his value increased, was a hit. And so when you're talking about hits, you're talking typically about guys that really take big value increases. And the fact of the matter is, that's not going to happen with the top two guys this year, but it could easily happen with pick 103 through 107. And so we talked about in our rankings video, we had the S tier and the S2 tier. And we called it the S2 tier, not to dog on CJ Stroud.
No.
Yeah, right?
It was totally unintentional.
We called it the S2 tier.
That's where we want you to trade
because
down
that's
to.
Where we're picking this year. I mean, you think about trading back from the 101 to the 107, 106, which I think the 106, 107, you're going to get Rome Odunze, I think, at the 106 this year. Can you imagine how much you'll get on top to move back 5 spots from the 101 to the 106? I mean, you're talking about like getting astronomical amounts of value on top to move back to a player that has the same draft capital, the same value insulation, has more room to move up in value in Dynasty, and you get value on top to do that? I mean, it is an absolute no-brainer. I'm telling you right now, even if you have the 103, 104, you're talking there about drafting either Malik Neighbors, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. We don't even know yet. But even then, you can down tier 3 or 4 spots and go to that 105 through 107 range, get a guy in the same tier with the same draft capital, potentially with the same insulation, and get value on top. We talk about taking like these small value wins. This is just a big opportunity right in front of your face to take a huge value win.
Yeah, and guys, if you think we're wrong about this and you think we're just totally making this up because we're getting bored and we're getting tired of hearing all the same players at the top, all you have to do is look back a year. Look back 2 years, look back 3 years. Who was it last year? Bijan Robinson, consensus 101, consensus, which guess who pushed back on that? You and I up top. And what happened to Bijan Robinson? He almost
He lost a little bit of
He
value.
lost a little bit of value. Now, the nice thing about those picks that go, usually 101 is they do have insulation for a couple years, but we're not talking about insulation. We're talking about a game of value. And with Bijan Robinson last year, you lost value. With Trevor Lawrence in 2020, you lost value. Significant value.
When you have rookies going that high, Breece Hall,
and
he tore
part
his
of that was
ACL,
because he tore his ACL.
But it doesn't matter. You still lost value. I mean, pretty much, you're looking back, and it's been example after example.
Like
but
you
talk about,
assumed the risk of taking on a running back at
that's
the
what's
101.
even funnier, though. You talk about like the value inflation and what the top 2 picks have value inflation-wise. But this year, you're going to have 7 guys with the same value inflation.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, we're talking 6 or 7 guys being mocked right now in the top 10 of NFL drafts, and I do not think this is buzz. I don't think it's a fluke. And if it happens, you're talking about literally down-tiering to a guy with the same value insulation. And if you're talking about, like, let's go to keep trade cut. As bad as it is, let's look. What can you fool your league mates into doing? That's how you use keep trade cut. The 101, and you're down-tiering to the 106, you can add DJ Moore, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, the 108. That is an absolute smash.
Yep.
And I know it from a startup draft capital perspective, like you could say, okay, I'd want more than that on top.
Yeah, well, we've seen it too. Plenty of deals that we were just talking about. If you trade back from the 101 or the 102, people have been getting the 106 and Waddle. That's been some stuff that we see, which is ridiculous. You're trading back
and Waddle's,
a few spots.
Waddle's right here in this range. JT is here. Yeah. Pittman, Devonta Smith.
All very attainable assets.
Kyron Williams. I mean, even going to the next page here. ETN, Pitts, Barkley, Metcalf, Kincaid. I mean, you're talking about to move back 5 spots. And at the 106, I'm like 98% sure you're getting a top 10 NFL draft pick there.
Guys, you just...
This is a no-brainer. Yeah. Rarely am I so sure about something in my life. Like, of course... I mean, yes, you could stay and say, oh, I'm going to bet on Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams could have a really good rookie year and maintain his value. And that's great. But the point of the video is that is just as likely to happen as it is for it to happen to Drake May, because they're going to get very close draft capital. The situations are probably going to be at least somewhat comparable. Typically, top 5 situations are somewhat comparable. I mean, Drake May is just as likely to do that as Caleb Williams. So if you're just saying I'm personally convinced that one will do it and one won't, I guess that's one reason not to down tier. But we're not really in the business of making these dynasty moves for our team based on our own personal opinions, because it's not about the player, it's about their price.
Yeah.
Every single time it is. Yep. So caveat here, and the tough part is, when you move back a certain amount, so when you're talking about downstream from like the 104, say, and you're like, okay, I've got a deal on the table for 104, for the 109, and
the 203.
Sure. The risk with that is you don't know where the teardrop is. And so the teardrop is like the drop-off in Finding Nemo. And everybody's scared of the drop-off, and they touch the butt. The butt this year is Keon Coleman, okay? And so
that's like, a really big butt.
It's a really big butt. And so the drop-off is really scary, and you're not supposed to go towards it, and like Mr. Shell's going to take you there, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's the drop-off. If you trade back and you end up on the other side of the drop-off, you're going to end up in an aquarium. That's the best way I can put it. You're going to end up in a dentist office, and Darla's going to get to take you home. Like, you are screwed at that point. Because, again, we don't know where the teardrop's going to happen this year. And so if, say it's a big disappointment and only 7 guys end up getting like first-round draft capital, which is possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. And you traded down to the 109, now you're getting a guy with so much less value insulation, and you traded out of a tier you wanted to be in, and you took too cheap of a price for it. So you have to be careful when you're like dangling around that 107 through 110 range this year. Nathan and I are of the opinion that the drop-off will be after the 109-ish this year. We think there's going to be a running back.
108.
Okay, 108, fine. It's definitely not. We are for sure that the 107 is going to be good. Yes. We're fairly confident the 108 is going to be good. The 109 is the swing spot with J.J. McCarthy and Trey Benson. But even then, like,
for the market value teardrop.
Look at all the receivers getting top 30 visits right now. Xavier Worthy, top 30 visits to the Colts. Sounds kind of interesting to me. I'm like, well, he's not really going to. That's interesting. I don't know. Adonai Mitchell getting a bunch of, like, you have a bunch of wide receivers that are fringe, like, first-round guys. Yeah. All of the guys last year in the wide receiver class that were being drafted, 5, 6, 7 in dynasty rookie drafts, all of those guys were in the 20s last year. And you're talking about that being the low end of the first 2 tiers of wide receivers this year. I mean, it is what we're talking about here from a value insulation standpoint, from a dynasty value perspective. It's truly bananas.
Yeah.
So again, and this is not going to be the case for every team situation. I mean, actually, I said, and I mean, it normally will be the case. I think it's almost always going to be a good move from the 101, 102. From the rest of it, you can make your own decision. But down tiering this year, especially from those top 2 spots, I think is the most important move you can make in Dynasty this year for the reasons that we laid out. And again, nothing against the players, everything against their price. I'm not drafting a rookie at the 1-2 turn when I can get a rookie with the same value insulation, the same draft capital, the same chance of hitting in the 3rd round of startup.
This is keeping your head above the waves. This is down tiering to the S2. This is just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. I went to town with the Nemo analogy there. Like that was, I freaking love that movie.
I'm very proud of you because that movie's awesome.
Does that movie make you cry? Make sure you drop a like on the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. Also, look, rookie drafts are hard to navigate. You want one-on-one rookie draft advice. You want a team blueprint. Guaranteed before the draft. If you get it right now, you sign up for Team Blueprint. We'll get it to you before your draft. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain and choose a motherflocker tier, and then you'll get your blueprint. You'll get one-on-one access. You'll get our Discord. You'll get all of it. All right, and a rookie draft guide, not to mention. All right, appreciate you guys.
Don't touch the butt.
Don't touch the butt.